Dear participants and online viewers of the 20th International Conference on Environmental, Cultural, Economic and Social Sustainability, welcome to the recorded presentation on the revision of the Industrial Emissions Directive and INCITE, which brings a holistic approach towards sustainability. My name is Ioannis Retsoulis. I work as a project and scientific officer in the European Commission's Joint Research Center in Sevilla. I would like first of all to thank at this point the organizers for giving me the opportunity to produce this recorded presentation. My presentation will mainly consist of three parts. I will firstly talk about the currently ongoing revision of the European Industrial Emissions Directive, the ID. I will highlight the holistic approach it employs towards sustainability, and subsequently I will mainly focus on INCITE, the Innovation Center for Industrial Transformation and Emissions. I will elaborate on the unique benefits that it creates. Allow me firstly to start by mentioning a few things about the unit I work in, Unit B5 of the JRC in Sevilla, the unit on circular economy and sustainable industry. This unit deals with several activities that include environmental economics and impact assessment, circular economy and waste management. It also includes the Sustainable Products Policy Bureau, activities that relate to sustainable finance and taxonomy. It includes as well the well-known European Integrated Pollution Prevention and Control Bureau, and I will talk about that a bit later. And a recent activity that it includes relates to INCITE, which is the main focus of this presentation. I would like to mention also that this unit, Unit B5, it's a quite strategic unit vis-à-vis the implementation of the Green Deal. Now, apart from the unit itself, as I mentioned previously, there is also the European Integrated Pollution Prevention and Control Bureau, which is part of the unit. You may know the Sevilla process, which is a well-known process to produce and develop environmental norms. This is done on the legal basis of the existing Industrial Emissions Directive, and more in particular Article 13.1, which has to do with the information exchange to establish best available techniques, but reference documents, the so-called BREFs. This Sevilla process, it is a participatory, inclusive, transparent, and consensus-based process. It is being utilized in order to identify the BAT and the associated environmental performance levels, BAT AEPLs, which constitute, as I mentioned before, the EU's environmental norms that large agro-industrial installations have to comply with. Some key figures vis-à-vis the Sevilla process. There are 32 BREFs that have been produced that include, for example, BREFs on large combustion plants, on large volume organic chemical industry, as well as, for example, non-ferrous metal industries. From these BREFs, we have the BAT conclusions, which are consensual, voted on by member states and published in the in the official journal of the European Union. It is important to mention that the Sevilla process has to do with a cooperation of more than 2,100 experts that are involved, and all these documents have been downloaded across the world more than 200,000 times, at least in 2020. Now, let me start the main part of my presentation that relates to the ID, its revision, INCITE, and the holistic approach that it brings. Where do we currently stand with the existing Industrial Emissions Directive? The ID currently regulates more than 30,000 large industrial installations and more than 20,000 farms. It regulates activities that have to do with energy industries, metals production and processing, mineral industries, chemical industries, as well as waste industries, pulp, paper or wood-based products, slaughterhouses, food products and milk, as well as intensive rearing of poultry or pigs and surface treatment. The ID supports a high level of protection of human health and the environment as a whole. It has achieved quite a lot up to now since it was firstly published back in 2010. Over a decade, it has achieved a reduction by 40 to 75% of key pollutants. However, currently regulated under the ID plants still contribute roughly almost 50% of emissions of sulfur dioxide and heavy metals, 40% of greenhouse emissions, and 30% of NOx and PM10. It is understood from that there is certainly room for further improvement. And it is exactly that room for improvement that the currently under revision ID seeks to achieve. There are, in fact, 5 areas of improvement that had been identified by an impact assessment. These 5 areas of improvement, namely, are more effective legislation, boosting of green innovation, increasing contribution to decarbonization, sectoral scope extension, as well as an increased focus on resource efficiency, circular economy, and on depollution. The 3 that are encircled are very much relevant to INCITE and the holistic approach that the idea in INCITE is employing towards sustainability. You may pose the question at this point, when will the ID be adopted, when the revision that is currently ongoing will be finalized? First of all, it has been quite a long process that has started for a few years now. We are close to the end of this process and only some final steps remain. What you see on this slide is an indicative timeline. There was already a provisional political agreement reached between the Council and the Parliament on the 28th of November last year. What is now upcoming is a vote in the European Parliament's plenary by spring, expected by spring this year, a formal approval by co-legislators by spring this year, and the final step will be the publication in the official journal of the EU, sometime in April expected of 2024, which is necessary as a step for the revised ID to enter into force. Now, let's talk more about INCITE and the holistic approach it employs. INCITE stands for the Innovation Center for Industrial Transformation and Emissions. Its aim is to support, on the one hand, the uptake of innovation for decarbonization, depollution, resource efficiency, and circular economy. And this is quite important because it employs what we call a holistic approach. It is not only decarbonization, it is not only depollution, it is not only resource efficiency, not only circular economy, but a holistic integrated approach of all these 4 different factors that need to be taken into account. INCITE aims at identifying and evaluating, in essence, emerging techniques, which means the degree of maturity, perhaps a TRL level might be more indicative in this case, and its environmental performance, the environmental performance of these emerging techniques. The initial focus of INCITE is on energy-intensive industries. Who will be implementing INCITE? The JRC, and in particular Unit B5 in Sevilla, will set up and operate INCITE in collaboration with DG Environment alongside other EU's DGs such as RTD, Klima, GROW, NR, and COMP. The legal status on which INCITE will be based is a Commission implementing decision. You might ask, why is INCITE really needed? INCITE is a game changer and a strategic element of the ID revision. It adds to the environmental norms making process, the Sevilla making process, of the ID, a forward-looking mechanism acting as a booster to promote innovation and accelerate the uptake of green emerging technologies, which is needed in order to achieve the EU Green Deal objectives on time, if not faster. It is strategic because exactly it answers to the how to achieve the EU Green Deal objectives, and it is a game changer because on the one hand it deploys a holistic approach, and on the other hand it also incorporates a forward-looking mechanism. What are its potentials and what are its uses? First of all, INCITE has a global vision. This vision is to become the central point of reference for identifying and evaluating the environmental performance of emerging techniques in Europe and beyond. And this is why it is a global vision, because it is not only in Europe, but it also goes much beyond that. It acts as an innovation center because it brings different stakeholders and beneficiaries which are interrelated in cooperation. There are stakeholders such as industry, technology providers, member states, academia, or EU-funded schemes um, under the RTD, the Research and Development DG of the EU, under executive agencies such as SINEA or the EIC, the agencies on climate, infrastructure and the environment, SINEA, or the European Innovation Center. This will be providing data and information to INCITE. INCITE will be producing recommendations which will be used in different ways by different beneficiaries. Some examples here: by industry and member states, these recommendations will be further used for flexible permitting, for environmental norms prioritization and review, for transformation plans. These recommendations will be also used for increased transparency, credibility, and public awareness vis-à-vis the general public and NGOs. They can also identify technology gaps and provide foresight and trends, and this can be afterwards used by beneficiaries such as industry, commission DGs, or academia. They will also, as recommendations, steer funding towards the best emerging techniques, the most promising ones, and such usage is certainly relevant to beneficiaries such as the European Investment Bank, the European Central Bank, but banks in general and investors. So what is important to highlight on this slide is that, first of all, INCITE has a global vision. It is an innovation center, but due to its central position, it also acts as a cooperation center that brings numerous beneficiaries and stakeholders into forms of collaboration. INCITE creates unique set of benefits. It brings a unique value proposition which mainly relates to three elements. Firstly, the permitting flexibilities to reward frontrunners, the provision of temporary derogation of up to 24 months for those that test emerging techniques, which is possible at any moment in time, and it also allows 6 years for the implementation instead of just 4 years. INCITE could facilitate as well financing potential, de-risk and leverage as such green investments by, for example, inclusion of emerging techniques in transition plans of different financial instruments, and by doing so, adding weight and credibility. The third element, which is part of the unique value proposition of INCITE, is to maintain and gain competitive advantage by incorporating future business models that contain emerging techniques at an early stage in the process of making EU legislation, in particular in the process of making environmental norms. And this is really important because it has to do with business competitiveness. Now, for INCITE to succeed and unlock its full potential, stakeholder engagement is key. We therefore see the need to spread the word and raise awareness on INCITE. INCITE will rely on a continuous stream of information on on emerging techniques. Inter alia, academia is a key stakeholder and beneficiary along with industry, technology providers, member states, and several other stakeholders. We need, therefore, to strengthen dialogue and provide information about INCITE and its benefits, and this is a key priority for us. We really value stakeholder participation and contribution, and we want to work hand in hand with all relevant stakeholders in order to, as I said, unlock INCITE's full potential. To this end, the following actions are being envisaged. First of all, participation in relevant conferences where more information on INCITE will be provided moving forward. Secondly, the organization of sectoral dedicated workshops, as well as webcasts and webinars with Q&A sessions where different questions on INCITE can be posed and answered. One important action that we will be taking forward is the launch event in Sevilla, which is provisionally going to take place in June this year. High-level representatives and diverse range of stakeholders are planned to take part. Various angles will be covered, meaning policy angles, technical aspects will be also addressed, and potential links to financing opportunities. It is an opportunity to step into the future of emerging techniques in this launch event and get to know much more about INCITE. It will be a physical event, but it will be also web streamed. On this note, I conclude my presentation. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I will be more than happy to take on board any questions you may have at the mail that is shown on this slide. Thank you once again to the organizers for the opportunity, and thank you all for your attention.